Good morning, everyone. We'll call a regular meeting of City Council for Monday, October 5th to order. And welcome our delegations this morning. And our first delegation this morning was Jenna Coleman. Sorry?
Your worship.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a couple of other things to do before that. We've got a ceremony. No, we don't. We have a public hearing, and we'll move forward with our public hearing.
It'll be about 2 hours. Just kidding.
So we have a public consultation session this morning, and I'll ask Brenda to read the notice, please.
Thank you. This public consultation is being held to respond to comments received from anyone that may be affected by the proposed amendments to the city's official community plan bylaw. OCP Amendment Bylaw Number 4459 is proposing to amend the land use designation of portions of Chamberlain Park from parks, natural areas, and trails to low-density residential to allow for the consolidation with neighboring residential properties. In addition, a portion of 11617 Rolla Road would have the land use designation amended from light industrial to heavy industrial to match the zoning. The OCP amendment would also remove a section titled Exemptions to Development Permits and instead refer to a separate Development Permit Area Guidelines document. And there were no responses received in regards to the notification.
Thank you, Brenda. So for a first time, I'll call for any comments. And for a second time, any comments? And for a third time, any comments? Thank you. So we'll close the public consultation for that item. And our next, we do have a public hearing this morning as well. So Brenda, if you can read the notice.
Thank you. Yes, this is in regards to the zoning bylaw. This public hearing is being held to hear from anyone that may be affected by the proposed amendments to both the city's OCP and zoning bylaw. The proposed amendments to the OCP bylaw were just mentioned within the public consultation session, so I won't repeat those. And the zoning amendment bylaw number 4460 proposes to rezone portions of Chamberlain Park from P1 Parks and Natural Areas to RS1 Residential Single Detached. In addition, zoning will be removed from 3 road right-of-ways at 11617 Rolla Road, 8th Street, and 1st Street, and heavy industrial zoning would be added to a portion of 11617 Rolla Road. There are also numerous text amendments proposed to allow for accessory structures in the RMH1 zone to clarify that human habitation is not permitted in a recreation vehicle, and clarifying requirements for trade schools and add permitted uses to industrial zones. Furthermore, a site-specific regulation would be added to allow for a reduced garage setback at 10701 Pinecrest Lane. The official zoning map would also be updated to improve readability. And there were no comments received in regards to the zoning.
Thank you, Brenda. So for a first time, was there any comments for anyone? And for a second time, any comments? And for a third time, any comments? Thank you. So we'll close the public hearing. And now we'll move to the regular meeting of City Council. And our first delegation this morning, Jenna Coleman from the Nalkin Friendship Center, unfortunately wasn't able to make it this morning. So we'll move to item 2.2. And we have Joanna Martins, Executive Director of the Kiwanis Performing Arts Center, and Charlie Burton are here this morning. Good morning. Welcome.
How's everyone? Surviving the fall season. So we are here today to just talk about some concerns that we have in regards to the safety of our back alleyway in and around KPAC, as well as some of the concerns we have with the BC Housing Project. So the BC Housing Project that is going up close to us, or is kitty corner to our lot across the street there. We've been in lots of talks over the last few weeks with BC Housing about some of our concerns that we have with them. And the reason we have a lot of concerns is over the course of the summer, as well as dating back throughout even last year, we've had a lot of issues with the back alley and misuse of the back area in behind our center. If you're familiar with KPAC, of course, you know the alleyway kind of does a natural L shape there. It comes up the back alley and then it kind of goes in behind those businesses. And so that little back nook area causes quite a bit of problem with people either A, dumping garbage back there. Our dumpsters have been filled with numerous shopping carts, people moving out of their houses. I imagine we've had furniture back there, all sorts of stuff. As well as because that nook naturally creates a little hiding spot, there's a lot of people that go back there and hide and do things that they don't want to be seen. So we've had to pick up drug paraphernalia back there. We've had issues with our playground, the kids' playground there, where we have to do sweeps in the morning to make sure that there's not, drug paraphernalia left on any of our equipment there. We've had human feces left on the slides and various different things. So it's become an issue. In most recent, we had a shed of ours that was broken into. Everything got stolen out of the shed, and then the homeless moved into our shed. So they must have thought it was a good place to live. And of course, we moved all of these people along. So our biggest concerns have always been that with this BC Housing project, is this going to create more of this undesired activity around our property, or is it going to alleviate it? Now, we've had our conversations with BC Housing, and I have a really, I think, a good start of a conversation and relationship with them. But what we want to talk to you folks about here at the city is we have concerns about the lighting on that street. There is street lights that go along there, but because we have programming that happens late in the evening, and we've got kiddos that come early in the morning, we're just concerned that there maybe isn't enough lighting along that street. So we would love to see an increase just in the lighting so that we have our kiddos and our parents feeling safe as they're walking up and down that street, because we've had concerns from some of our parents expressing concern about their safety in relationship to where this BC Housing project is. So that's one of our asks, is to maybe look into better lighting, but then also to put some flood lighting or some sort of security on the back of our building, because I think that if we had some floodlights on the back of our building that came on even with a motion sensor of some sort, then that would really deter and light up that back alleyway. So then hopefully we wouldn't have as much misuse of the area back there, because right now it's really dark. We don't have any lighting in the back. There's no security camera in that back area. So just having some lights, I think, would make a huge difference in deterring people from using that. So we're really just wanting to brighten up our area down there to make everyone feel a bit more secure with what's happening. Like I said, so that's kind of where we're at. Charlie, do you have something?
Just add security cameras. We also don't have any security cameras in the front. We do have a couple of parents currently now where we have custody orders, so that becomes a concern because if our staff member doesn't see someone come in through our doors, we don't know that they're in there sometimes. And we've had other people ask if we have like a security camera on our front doors because we can't see anyone come. Like, we have no surveillance there at the front to see if people are coming or going. The same with the back. We've had staff members come in first thing in the morning and been startled because there was someone hiding in that back corner as they're coming into the doors to open. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Council, any questions? Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you both for joining us this morning. It's good to see you. I'm sorry to hear of the circumstances that compelled you to come and talk to us. Obviously, nobody likes to hear that the area is troubled by issues like that. So I just have a couple follow-up questions, but a comment to your first point. I think a request for more lighting and visibility and security apparatus, if that kind of stuff's going on, isn't unreasonable, and I'm sure I'd certainly be in support of exploring that once we have a chance to see the details of what's required. Number one, the RCMP, have they been dialed into this conversation as the issues occur with respect to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when we have had issues, especially with our homeless living in there, they have been contacted and made aware of it. And I know in recent conversations that I had both with Gail and Blair there, we talked about this as well, and getting an increased patrol around that area, which I think would help as well. And I think honestly, like I said, if it was lit up and people couldn't hide there, that would probably be the biggest deterrent of anything. Because it just makes a natural nook, that back alleyway, and it makes it really easy for people to hide, even on our property as well. The way the building is shaped is it makes them really nice little hiding spots for people back there.
And one last thing. So with respect to the BC housing unit we have going on there, obviously, we were all aware of the sensitivities potentially around that when we were working with them, and proceeded based on the assurances they provided. So as that conversation develops, we hope obviously you'll keep us in the loop if you're not finding the working relationship to be fruitful, because obviously our hope is that a project like this will help alleviate issues like that, not exacerbate them. And if that's not happening, we need to be hearing about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had, like I said, quite a few meetings with BC Housing ourselves and expressed what our concerns are with them. And so I think in our last meeting, we kind of have a plan on how we can all, work together as good neighbors and, work together to make it successful for everyone. So.
And I know Spickers is going to play a pivotal role in managing the facility. Are they also?
Yeah, it's been Spickers, BC Housing, and then ourselves have been involved in these meetings. So again, with that, we know that, until the project is up and going and we know what it looks like, you're right, it could alleviate it, it could, add, we don't really know, but I think, again, just our communication with BC Housing, I feel really quite confident that we can go forward, at least, trying to make sure that the neighborhood and our relationships are good, but again, just back to the lighting, I think that would just add and enhance, and especially put some parents' minds at ease as well, just knowing that, there is that added security, because I think there are a lot of misconceptions about this housing project and what it means. So we have a lot of parents that are perhaps fearful about what it means by the housing project being so close to our daycare. So again, just, any enhancement, one thing we've expressed again to BC Housing is just doing more public engagement and in educating our parents or just people in general what it means, because definitely after we sat and learned more about the project ourselves, some of our own fears and stuff were put to rest just because we had a clear idea of what the project was. So those are some of the things we suggested with these housing.
Thank you. Administration? Blair, Ross, Kevin, anything?
Nothing further.
In regards to
that I
the
can
street
add.
lighting or building lighting or?
We can look into that and have a discussion through Ross and ourselves as well as Kevin for the streets to see where we're at with the lighting.
Okay, thank you. So we'll bring that back later in the meeting under Mayor's Business and Direct Administration. Thank you. Thanks for coming in this morning.
Yeah, you do.
Good to see you. Councillor Parslow?
Relating to the first item, are we going to deal with the request for letter of support today, or are we going to wait
For the Nowkin?
now? Yeah.
Brenda?
Yeah, through your worship, there was a presentation and a letter of request on the agenda, and that can be dealt with under.
Okay, all right, so we don't have to delay it till Jana comes and, okay, perfect. So we'll go back to item 1 then, and the letter from the Nowkin Friendship Center and asking for community. Did you want to make?
Yes, we've had a very thorough presentation here in the material, so I'd like to move that we grant the request for a letter of support from the City of Dawson Creek for the Bergeron Youth and Cultural Centre project to be used for their application.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Earl, discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And item 3, the individual, Mr. Browse, who had put the request in to operate a food truck at the NAR parking lot, is not able to be here this morning, but the same thing, he's put the information forward and asking for permission to park at the NAR park with his food truck. And when we dealt with these, I'm going to say 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, when we dealt with food trucks and we granted, I think, 3 or 4 locations that they could operate in, the Rotary Lake, the Soccer Diamonds, etc., the NAR Park was excluded. So Brenda, for us, we can deal with this request now, and council could give the consideration now for it without him being here, same?
Yeah, through your worship, yeah, since the delegation is not in attendance.
Okay. Could we just give council a little bit of a background on that in terms of exactly what we've done in the past?
Your worship, so some time ago, food trucks became prevalent, not just in our province, but in our city. They became something that were going to be put up. Council dealt with it, as you said, a number of years ago. The locations were important to city council, at which point they put in one of the locations requested was the NAR Park. Following that, there was a motion by City Council to exclude the NAR Park for food trucks to be located at. The reason, I don't know, Your Worship, on that. Previous council had made that, and now here we are back again. We have somebody requesting the opportunity to go into this high-profile location. Brenda, if there's more to add from that historically, I'm just not sure, or Kevin?
Yeah, so through Your Worship, the NAR Park specifically, I remember when we proposed business licensing for food trucks, there was some comments that came back specific to NAR Park from some local restaurants that didn't want to see them there, and so council at that time, I believe, made that decision to exclude that from the approved spots.
And when we open it up to all. It's not to a individual. Any of the food trucks that operate currently could. So I guess I'm going to ask the question, and is there an issue with us having potentially 3 or 4 or 5 of them in there? Do you see? Or
Your Worship, I think location-wise, it's a high-profile location. Space availability, probably if they're well-positioned, you could fit them in there. Summer is obviously our busy time at the NAR station and the museum and so on. And but as you said, could it be done? We could make anything happen. But it would be important, and you've noted this, if you open it for one, you would open it for all.
Yeah. This year is a non-issue with very little tourist traffic, but if we have a busy tourist season and we pop 4 of them in there with the traffic, that as well as the congestion of the tourist traffic. So, Councillor Dubecko?
So I don't remember. I remember talking about this and developing the plan where we were going to have them, at the soccer fields and Rotary Lake and a couple other places. Was there not a policy or some document developed at that time?
Yeah, we
that we can fall back on and say, well, this is.
We restricted NAR Park, I think, because of 2 things. I think the feedback we got from some of the local downtown businesses that said, I remember Melanie Treble, who owned the restaurant downtown at the time, gave us a concern about that specific location, and I think from that perspective, council restricted the NAR Park from. But I can't remember the other discussion about it, honestly. Go ahead.
Yeah, we've got, a number of fast food places within a block or 2 of that location, and they're paying taxes year-round, and that was the consideration as far as I can remember. But I thought there was a policy developed, and, is this not a situation where we fall back on that policy, or do we revisit the whole issue again?
Yeah, the location was the issue that our temporary use was you can operate it if you have your license. You can operate it anywhere on private property, but if you have a food license, a temporary, you can only operate them, and that was the direction and the policy we set. But we restricted NAR Park, and I think this request is saying, will you reconsider that NAR Park location? And that's what council has to do.
I'll make a motion that we don't reconsider it.
Okay. Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Earl, discussion. Councillor Earl and Councillor Parslow.
To add to Councillor Javetkov's point, although the current policy predates my time on council, it does look as though the food truck vendors have found a fairly convenient workaround, as they're just parking on the other side of the tracks in the 4-lane lot. So I don't think this prohibits anybody who's keen to do so from doing business there. And as other councillors noted, there are that location is fairly high profile and in close proximity to downtown restaurateurs that are paying a significant amount of property tax year-round. So I don't see this as something worth revisiting the entire policy, and I think they can find a way around it if they're keen to do so.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow,
Well, there's a vendor using the parking lot in front of the liquor store, BC liquor store as well. So, that acceding to the request you referred to has only moved them, 50 yards down the road. But I don't know, I'm kind of neutral of this. One side of me says, well, why not? There's plenty of room. But then the other side said, do we want all our parts? And then I hear, you know, I mean, the Walter Wright part has, we've acceded to that one because of its location to Rotary Lake. But at the very least, if we were to agree to this, we should, I think, get some feedback from the museum people and the tourism people and the art gallery before we would agree to it. So I'm not against the motion. They're just some of my reflections.
Yeah, I've heard this summer from some of our restaurant owners concerned about the food trucks and, you know, the hard time that it's been for them. But for me, this is, I would really worry about the impact it would have on the parking lot for tourists and the long term. And they're finding ways around it, and so I agree with the motion. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. So, new councillor business. Councillor Parslow.
I just have some suggestions for the next cow meeting. There are a number of things that are percolating in my mind that I just like us to talk about and have staff give us an update of where we're at. One of them relates to the correspondence that we received from the Narrowton Friendship Centre and a chat I had with our previous CAO when he was in town. And I just like to have an update about where we're at with flood mitigation, the options that we have before us, and particular interest with some of the technologies that are available for the protection of buildings and whether that is part of our scheme. So I don't want any written reports, just one of your famous chats. Right. But seriously, just for us to, where are we at and where we're heading with that important topic. So that's just a suggestion for, I mean, I appreciate staff do write somewhat lengthy reports. I don't want to add to that. I just thought you know, Mayor may have some information as well about that topic at the political level. But I just like to be updated on that. And that was all prompted from that meeting with Duncan, which was informal, unplanned, and the letter we had from Joanna. The other is relating to sewage, storm sewage, where we're at with that, what are our plans for the upcoming fiscal year as it relates to trying to mitigate all the issues and complicated issues we're dealing with there. And the third relates to the multiplex, not the operation of the multiplex, but the facility. What are our upcoming challenges with maintaining that building? What are some of the implications? And would it be wise to start setting some money aside for that? I've only heard some of the issues. What are the issues and how are we going to plan to deal with them? Because that's our major asset. We want to keep it going for as long as we can. And so they're just some suggestions for our agenda.
Thank you. Any other council business? Thank you. So next item 4 is our minutes of our regular meeting of council for September 14th for adoption. Councillor Parslow, Councillor Javetkov. Any errors or omissions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Any business arising out of the minutes for anybody? Thank you. Now, item 6 is our correspondence. 6.1, we have a letter from Jonathan Cote, the Mayor of the City of New Westminster. Universal access to no-cost prescription contraception. Councillor Javetkov?
Received for information.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? For a second time, do I have a seconder? Councillor Earl. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Item 6.2, we have a letter from Vivian Hall, the Office Manager of Network Ministries, in regards to a request for a letter of support. Councillor Earl?
I'll move that the City of Dawson Creek Council supports the application to Northern Development Initiative Trust from Networks Ministries Dawson Creek for the renovation and upgrade of the community spaces in their newly purchased building.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Javetkov? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And 6.3, we have a letter from Dr. Berger, a resident of Dawson Creek, regarding a request for offer to purchase.
See for discussion.
Councillor Parslow, second. Councillor Kemp? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Go ahead.
Well, I would like to have hear some of the reflections from staff about this. I know nothing about this.
Okay.
Your Worship, this letter comes from an individual who lives on Chamberlain Park. The issue that we have been dealing with as a city for a number of years now. It's very close to conclusion. During the process, the doctor chose at that point not to purchase the property. This has now come in after the fact, wanting to purchase a piece of property that is behind his home. Deals with many of the issues we've heard a great deal about with the encroachments into the park. We offered pieces of property up for sale to try and correct that issue. And now Mr. Berger has come back and is requesting the ability to purchase that. There will be some associated costs with this, as I understand it now, that we have concluded the bulk of the work. But again, I would look to Brenda to see, I believe that this is the assessed value of the property, or when we went through it, was this the number that was come up with?
Yeah, through your worship, the BC assessment provided us with the estimates, and $10,000 was the estimated cost for this portion.
So I guess my supplementary question, what are there extra associated charges that this person should be paying for?
There will be a few $1,000s based on the advertising, based on is it a rezoning application that has to occur now for this piece of property? But Brenda?
Yeah, through your worship, the other 10 owners that purchased property shared the costs of the OCP and zoning amendment. So now that $2,000 application fee would be responsible for this purchaser, as well as their own land title fees, lawyer fees, and there's one I'm missing.
Survey?
What I had estimated, yes, thank you very much.
What was that?
The survey?
Yeah, the survey, yeah, and that was estimated at about $3,000. They can go and look for better quotes, but that was the quote I was given for just that was.
Yep.
So I would like to move that we accept this offer subject to all additional conveyance fees, planning fees, the full meal sort of thing.
Offer to purchase for the property with the associated fees attached. Councillor Javetkov, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Item 7 is reports. We have report number 20181 from the building inspector regarding a section 57 suggested notice against land title. Councillor Parslow.
You want me to read the whole?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to move the recommendation as presented, which is one first resolution, the report 20-181 from the building inspector suggested section 57 note against land title 917 91A Avenue be received for discussion. That's the first resolution.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Javetkov. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
So discussion, or shall I just proceed to the next one?
We can provide an update,
Just
Your
an
Worship,
update, sure.
to yourself and council. So, some time ago, the individuals came to city council, to the city, requested a permit. They were going to do a home renovation. They moved the house off of the foundation, put in a new foundation. and then we're to move the home back onto it and complete the renovation. At some point, there was a determination made that a new home would be better built on the new foundation versus bringing the old house back onto it. They proceeded and failed to change their permit from a renovation permit to a new build permit. With that comes issues such as the home warranty as is laid out in the report, as well as inspections. Thus, the recommendation for a Section 57, which is really for any future purchaser of the property or individuals. But Kevin, if you have anything to add?
No, through your worship, I think you've hit it there.
Thank you, Blair. Further comments, further discussion? Anyone? All those in favor? Oh, I guess we did vote on it, so
So I'd
now the
like
motion, sure.
I'd like to propose
Yeah.
make the second resolution then. I'd like to move that council direct the corporate office to file a note against land title stating that a resolution relating to 917 91A Avenue under Section 57 of the Community Charter has been made, and that contraventions exist in regards to lack of home warranty registration, failure to provide updated building plans under Division C 2.2.2.1.3 of 2018 BC Building Code, and failure to comply with the stop work order under 25.6 of City of Dawson Creek Building Regulation Bylaw number 4287, 2016. Further, the information about it may be inspected at the Municipal Hall.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Earl, discussion? Blair?
Your Worship, I should let you know, we have met with the individual who is involved with this, laid out the path forward on what is required in order to get this project into compliance. Once that is dealt with, then this Section 57 would be removed from title as well. So there is a path forward for this to happen. And I believe there's some work ongoing now by the individuals, as well as working with our building inspector. He has laid out what is required to make this happen.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 7.2, we have report number 2189 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding our snow plow policy update. Councillor Earl?
I will move the recommendation that report 20-189 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding snowplow policy update be received. Further, that council approve the attached amended snow plowing and removal policy and the amended sidewalk snow removal in the downtown core policy, pending the required 30-day review period.
Thank you. Second? Councillor Kemp, discussion? Comments? Councillor Parslow?
I would like to know what cost application, or what's the word I'm looking for? Implications, thank you, would be in this policy.
Kevin?
So, through your worship, the policy that's in front of you, what we tried to do is really capture what we currently do. The existing policy, which was noted by council a while back that it needed to be refreshed. We took that, modernized it, made sure that the language reflected what is currently conducted. So there's really no change in the policy other than, as noted, that we wouldn't be hiring equipment as frequently. And that was reflected in the budget change that we made earlier this fall for next year. So contract equipment will be limited. So there'd be a savings there. But other than that, it's pretty much business as usual. It's just bringing the language a little bit more modern.
So only bring contract in where we can't adhere and meet the requirements that we set under the policy of 7 days if we get more than 18 centimeters, and that normal policy requirements that is in there. Only the sidewalks in Schedule B are going to be plowed by the city. And this, I think the one is this spillage over the gate, and to me that's a really, I think, a very positive one, where if you have some spillage over the gate, we're not going to come back and clear it. And we've defined that to be 20 centimeters.
Yeah, through your worship, I'll just provide a little clarity on that. And the reason that we put that in there is the previous language said that driveways will be kept clean. And so that's a pretty strong language to say clean. And the reality is like you mentioned, there's going to be some spillage over the greater gates. There's going to be the odd snow lump that comes in there, and we're trying to find something that we believe is reasonable. We want to make sure that everybody's got access. And we believe that if there's a little bit of snow that spills over, that's not unreasonable and people can still get in and out. The challenge we've had with the previous policy was that people were calling us to come back and for a second time to clear a driveway, when in reality there was, maybe a couple of snow lumps or 4 inches of snow. And so we believe that this language is reasonable and will certainly assist crews in not having to come back a second time.
20 centimeters being about 8 inches, approximately.
Yeah.
For us older guys. And so that's a reasonable, and the cost implications for us in terms of manpower, time, and money to adhere to that standard of perfection wasn't reasonable. Thank you. Any other comments, Councillor Parcel?
Well, I made the same calculation as you did. So there was fairly significant savings, as I recall. You referred us back to the discussion we had about contracted. Was that about $100,000 figure, approximately?
I would have to go back.
So through your worship, no, I don't believe it was that much, but it's in the neighborhood of $60,000 to $75,000 savings by not calling in contract graders as much.
Go ahead.
So is this 8 inches compacted snow or just freshly falling snow?
So through your worship, we're speaking about anything that might spill as the grader goes by, because depending on how much snow there is, there will always be some that spills out of that. And so we're talking about whatever comes out of that. So it's not compacted.
There is quite the difference, because I have to periodically sort of dig myself out of my driveway with its mounds of snow have been left there, but living in the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor
Highways
Givaco.
doesn't cover that, eh?
What's that?
Highways doesn't gate your driveway? I'm just being
Occasionally,
facetious.
occasionally, yeah, but sometimes not. No.
Councillor Givaco.
That 8 inches, I don't have a small car, but I know a lot of these small cars with that plastic under the front bumper is less than 8 inches from the ground. So is that going to result in a bunch of phone calls to repair broken plastic off of the cars? I know it happened to me over at Rotary Lake one day on a pipe that was protruding from the ground.
I think to me the issue is, and we've had the complaints from people expecting perfection and what level is reasonable. And I remember the very first call I got as a complaint as the mayor was individual called, and there was the staff went and took a picture of it, and there wasn't 2 or 3 inches of snow of it, and that's not reasonable. And we can't afford reasonable. We can't afford perfection. And so to me, there's a reasonableness attached.
I'm just wondering about that 8 inches. Have you looked at some of these little cars that, that plastic in the winter, it's frozen, so you hit that ridge and there goes your part of your car.
So through your worship, I mean, we're shooting for obviously less than that, and we believe they will, because most times, as the mayor indicated, we're talking about a couple of inches that is left behind. So I don't expect that there's going to be a lot of times that you will see up to 8 inches left behind. So if it becomes an issue, yeah, if it becomes an issue, then we'll revisit that. But I don't believe it will be.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions?
Just on this, the reason this is here is council requested this some time ago, was to bring this back. We can do anything that council wishes. We can take it down to dry pavement in the winter, if that would be the case. But I think I do want to say, there has to be some obligation on the homeowner when possible to do some of this as well. We're trying to do the best. The operators we have are incredible operators out there. They do the best they can, but we will try and maintain, and having lived here for a great deal of time, I think we have some pretty good snow clearing compared to many communities in this province. And what we will do, though, if people are seeing concerns or that, we take those calls. We'll make it work for everybody in our community. But the reason this is here is because council wished it to come back.
Good. Thank you. Any further comments, questions? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 7.3, we have report number 2182 from the Recreation Manager regarding the Memorial Arena time clock agreement. Councillor Javetkov.
Move that report number 20-182 from the Recreation Manager Memorial Arena time clock agreement be received. Further, that the Memorial Arena time clock agreement between the City of Dawson Creek and the Dawson Creek Minor Hockey Association be approved for a 5-year term commencing October 6, 2020 and ending April 30th, 2025.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Earl, discussion? Background, any information? Councillor Earl?
I just have a question with respect to the timeline, the 5-year term, but is actually about 4.5 years. Is there any particular reason we're, just for my own curiosity?
I believe it would be the end of the season on the 5th year is how they've come with that. But Ross?
Yes, through your worship, I believe that is the case.
Thank you. Anything further? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 7.4, we have report number 2184 from the Safety Coordinator regarding our health and safety policy update. Councillor Parslow.
I move the report number 20-184 from the Safety Coordinator Health and Safety Policies update be received. Further, that the following health and safety policies be removed from the policy manual and instead be included with the safe work procedures. 1. Accident prevention and accident reports. 2. Asbestos. 3. Inspection of premises. 4. Investigation of accidents. 5. Joint Health and Safety Committee. 6. Management meetings. 7. Records and statistics. 8. WMIS. Further, that the smoking and smoke-free space policy and the substance abuse policy be repealed and replaced with the workplace smoking, vaping, and workplace substance management policies attached to this report, and further, that new respectful workplace policy be approved pending the required 30-day review period.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kemp? Discussion? Any comments? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Report number 2185 from the General Manager of Community Services regarding requests for proposals for the 20 to 29 council chambers audio video system replacement. Councillor Javetkov.
Move that we receive for discussion.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Kemp. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Administration. Could maybe have a overview of the.
Thank you, through your worship. Good morning. As most of council can likely attest, the sound system in council chambers is, I believe, reached at the end of its useful life cycle. In June of this year, we went out with requests for proposals to replace the audio system in council chambers, and the RFP also provided that the proponents provide some options for video components as well. We had a good reply. We had 6 proposals come back. As you can see in the report there, they range from about $17,000 to $39,000, just about $40,000. Staff did form a committee to review the proposals and ensure that each proponent met the general criteria of the RFP. We subsequently shortlisted to 3 proponents, and we did some follow-up interviews with each of the proponents. We asked some specific questions about capabilities, those types of things, time frame to deliver proponents, technical specifications, what have you. As it turned out, the audio portion of that RFP, the quotations came in well under our budget, the council's approved budget of $50,000. So we had subsequent discussions with the top 3 candidates regarding voting functionality, touchscreen tabletop for the mayor to control the meetings, upgraded conference control software, which will help us with the administration, with minutes, what have you, and cameras to stream the video presentations, the council meetings rather. When we added up when we started adding on the options, the final quotation we received, and I should have indicated Applied Electronics was the successful choice of our committee. When we added in the final options there, the final quotation for all-in package is $85,874, which is about $35,000, almost $36,000 higher than the approved budget. We had some discussions around capital funds available, and my recommendation this morning would be to reallocate some funds from a different capital project where we will not spend all the funds this year, and complete the entire project at this point in time. Important to note that given the implications of COVID and the plastic screens you see beside you, the glare off some of those screens, I believe this will be a good opportunity to provide to the general public a more clear presentation when these meetings are televised and recorded.
Thank you, Ross. Questions, comments from council? Councillor Javetkov?
You know, originally we went out to do some specific, a specific job to do with audio, and so there was bids on that. We got the quotes and we assessed them. I have no problem with that part of it, but adding on a bunch of the other options, we don't have competitive bids on the other options, and I'm not in favor of reallocating money from other projects for that purpose. So, you know, I'm in favor of the original program, but not in favor of the additional options. You know, if we wanted those additional options, I think we have to go out with a request for proposals for those.
Ross?
So thank you, through your worship. We did, each of the proponents did provide quotes for the optioned equipment that we asked for originally. They provided the base rate, which you see in front of you there on the list, and then they each proponent provided prices for the additional options.
So they're not indicated on the summary here?
They are not.
So do we get to see them, or
We can certainly
is that
share them with
confidential?
council.
Councillor Parslow?
One of the features I've always found useful with some other organizations I support when we have meetings and people spending their winters in Arizona and such like, is that we have the online, it's just not audio, it's also visual. That would be supported by this system, wouldn't it?
Yes.
I can recall saying that, you know, being engaged in meetings just remotely and just audio, you miss a lot of things. So would the person in Arizona be able to actually get the same viewing that the camera is getting directly? Would that be live feedback to the individual?
Yes, through your worship. Thank you, Councillor. Yes, and the quality would go way up with the components that are specified.
The regional district have installed that 2-camera system in the boardroom. It's very effective, and when they first implemented it, there was a camera in the center of the room that was voice activated, so whenever somebody activated their mic, then it would, the camera, but now they've got the 2 cameras. Are very effective. It's a very good system. And so in response to Councillor Javekov's concern about, or comment about the other piece of it, and so to me, the one struggle sometimes in the chair is obviously recognizing the speakers and the order of speakers, and that's what this system does. It gives you the opportunity to tag the chair that you want to be next in line for the speaker and the voting piece of it. And so to me, I think it's just a really effective technology, and I saw it in use and at a different city, and I thought it was really a very effective thing. And that's the one thing I sometimes, you notice, everybody's very respectful in terms of how they do the business of council, but by when you want to speak, you log in, and then you're recognized on the tablet as the next speaker. And to me, it's one of those things that I think is really important, and I try to do my best to capture speakers, but it's frustrating if I miss somebody and somebody gets missed by it. So I think it's a technology that gives us the opportunity to do a better job of ensuring people have the opportunity at participating in an appropriate manner. And that's what it gives us, that technology. So, Councillor Parsons?
So you're adept at touch screen?
Yes, absolutely. I've got 5 fingers, I can even do it. Councillor Earl, then Councillor Javekov.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question for staff. What is the anticipated life cycle of this new system, and how does that track with any other anticipated renovations or work we're going to need done or would like to have done? I know in reviewing our 10-year capital plan, there's some question marks next to some items around what City Hall, the city is going to do. I just want to make sure we're not spending money to install something that 5 years from now we may have other needs for this facility. Does that need a better picture of that?
Thank you, through your worship. Thank you, Councillor. This is the latest technology, if you will. I suspect that if we were to move council chambers in the not so distant future, that equipment would migrate with the chambers, with the desks, what have you. The sense I have with in meeting with the proponent is that the components are fully upgradable, that one of the considerations we would have is a service agreement, so we would see regular updates, we would stay current. The upgrades can be done through a web-based online server, so I think, you know, it's a step in the right direction coming into.
Councillor Earl?
And just a quick follow-up, does this equipment, and not to put, with Josh is in the room, but does it impact our contract or agreement with New Harvest Media to provide the online streaming services at all?
Thank you, through your worship. No, it would not impact at this point in time. We would still be engaging New Harvest.
Thank you. Councillor Parsons?
I'm prepared to move the recommendation.
Okay.
In order.
Thank you.
I just have
Oh,
one
sorry.
more
Councillor
question.
Javekov had one, and then your next up.
yeah.
I had that screen, I would have had that.
You just did that, Mr.
If we would have spent that extra
That was so
50,000.
appropriate.
So I guess my point is, like, we have a lot of needs for the money. We've obviously been working hard to, deal with these financial issues. Here we've got a project that we finance or set aside 50,000 for. We've got a bid for 32,000, and we're looking at additional options that it cost another 50,000. And yeah, I agree, some of these things are nice to have, like, making a note of, but they're not showstoppers. and I don't know if they're worth $50,000. You know, the type of things that we could be using that money on, we all know what they are. Road repairs, flood repairs, all kinds of projects. The other thing is that we already have a pretty good video of the meeting on the website. Even though it's delayed for 2 days, you can still flash it up and look at different segments that you're interested in, or look at the whole meeting or whatever. This is already there. So, you know, these are the examples of things that I think that we get ourselves in trouble with, is trying to go for the Lincoln Continental version when the Chevy version is doing just fine. So I'm opposed to it. You know, it's another $50,000 that we don't need to spend. We could put that money elsewhere. We could put it into reserve. So, you know, it's like all these nice to haves. I've been in situations before where we decide what we need, and then we say, oh, well, why don't we add this and add this and add this? To me, it's not a good expenditure.
Thank you. Councillor, Councillor Parslow, then Councillor Earl? I didn't have it.
I'm going to move the recommendation
Thank you.
that report 20-185 from the General Manager of Community Services, request for proposals 2020-29 Council Chambers audio video system replacement be received. Further, the Council awards this work to Applied Electronics Limited for a bid price of $85,874 plus applicable taxes.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? For a second time, do I have a seconder? Councillor Earl, discussion. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. So just a question for staff. The $35,000 above and beyond the initial allocated $50,000 budget, staff mentioned that would come from another capital project that we anticipate. Just some clarification, is that an as-yet completed project that we anticipate coming in under budget, or is that something that's already come in under budget, so the money is there?
Thank you, through your worship. The implications of COVID this year are such that there are a number of capital projects that we have been unable to complete or will be unable to complete this year for reasons such as supplies and equipment, available contractors, what have you. So there had some conversations with our CFO regarding the capital plans, and there will be, in this particular project, there will be monies that we will not spend.
Thank you. Can I ask if you could just break down the audio, the video, and the touchscreen into three, if possible, for Applied Electronics?
So the audio is the sound system, if you will, the amplifiers. There will be additional microphones for the administration, for delegation, audio control. The options are the camera tracking package.
So that amount, Ross, sorry, if I can just break the amounts down. So the Applied Electronics at $32,000 was for audio only?
Correct.
And then another $17,000 for the video component attached to it?
No, the additional, there was $32,000 was just the audio components with all the other options. The final was $85,000.
That included audio, video, and the touch screen?
Correct.
Yeah.
The $32,000 is audio only.
Yeah. Thank you. Further discussion? Are you ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Councillor Javetkov opposed. Thank you. Thank you for that, Ross. 7.6. We have report number 20191 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding the 2020 tax sale results. Councillor Parslow.
Move that report 20-191 from the CFO, the 2020 tax sale results be received for information.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Kemp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
So, related
Yeah.
to this topic, mention was made about, I think it was 15 trailers, mobile homes, or whatever the proper word is for them. What are our options there? I mean, we don't want to own them, which was cited in the report, so what alternatives do we have?
Through your worship, so we are continuing to look at this. Right now, the challenge is that if we were to take the mobile homes and put them on the tax sale, and nobody purchased them, they then will revert to the city of Dawson Creek, who will then be responsible to pay the pad rental for each of those units. We are looking at some options. There is a great deal of money owed on these, but the value of the units don't seem to exceed the value of money owed to the city for taxation in many cases. Is there anything further, Flavia, that you can add? This is, the biggest challenge we have is under the Mobile Home Act, which has certain protections, and it certainly puts municipalities, we're not the only one in this province that is hindered by this problem, but there has to be some changes at the provincial regulatory and legislative position, I think, in order to help the communities in this province on this.
Yeah, through your worship, some of the action plans that we are putting together, we actually started. For those that we tried to contact several times and was unsuccessful, and were not able to get prepayments or installments. We are starting to send them to small claim courts. And for those, there are some groups where we are able to negotiate payment in installments to reduce the impact. And at the same time, also, you're going to see one of the bylaws we are suggesting now. The main balance normally is not the property tax, it's actually utility bills that they are not paying. So it's accumulating. So we are currently proposing a review on the water bylaw, where we will be able to enforce shutdown of the water and then try to recover the money. So we are finding other alternatives other than the tax sales, because we know tax sales would be costly to us in addition of what's happening.
Go ahead.
Just making sure I understand that. We don't have that power to withhold utilities such as water and sewer at the present time. Where you're seeking, is that something that council has the power to grant through its bylaws? There's no provincial interference
for the
here?
utilities. For utilities, not. It's under the authority of council.
The reason I'm asking, is this specific to trailers? Because I thought we had cut off water and sewer to, if I can call it, stick-built properties.
I don't believe we have. Within our bylaw, we had the ability to do a number of things. Shutting off water to properties in the city was not one of them either. It was missed many years ago, or there was no need for such a thing, but we are dealing with that, and it's coming before council for consideration.
Yeah. Thank you. 7.7, we have a memo regarding the request that we had received a week ago from Ovintiv in ratifying the support for nominations of some dormant sites. And this is the $1.2 billion that the federal government allocated to the Western Canada, Alberta, Ontario, or Alberta, BC, for the reclamation of dormant wells. And BC was given $120 million, and so 3 parties can apply for the request for site nomination: the municipality, a landowner, a stakeholder, or the individual companies. So I was contacted by Ovintiv and asked if we would support the site of 15, and this creates it's intended to create economic opportunities for businesses, and these will be BC businesses that would be the ones who would qualify for it. So I need a request for council to ratify that. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll make the following motion that the memo from the Executive Assistant regarding Oventive request support for nominations for the British Columbia Dormant Sites Reclamation Program be received. Further, that the decision to support Oventive's proposal to nominate 25 of their dormant sites for the Dormant Site Reclamation Program be ratified.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Kemp. Go ahead, Councillor Earl.
Just a quick question. I know a similar proposal came to, I think, the PRRD from another oil and gas company. Is there a reason this is coming to, is it just a preference of the operator, or is it a reason this is coming to us?
Yeah, I think in that case, they wanted the RD's support because there was a number of them, I guess, in the regional district, and they thought they would seek the support of the Peace River Regional District in that case. Oventive, all of these are directly in the southeast area around Dawson Creek, and so they sought our support.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we vote?
No.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. I need that machine. Bylaws 8.1, permissive tax exemption bylaw 4453 for consideration of adoption. Councillor Javec.
For adoption.
Thank you. Second? Councillor Earl. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 8.2, we have land sale bylaw 1024 to 1036, 104th Avenue for consideration of adoption. Councillor Javec.
For adoption.
Moved. Second. Councillor Kemp. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 8.3, we have report number 20186 from the city planner regarding the official community plan amendment bylaw, amendment 2001 bylaw 4459 2020. Councillor Parslow, move for adoption. Second, Councillor Earl. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 8.4, we have report number 20187 from the city planner regarding zoning amendment bylaw 2003, number 4460 for Chamberlain Park. Councillor Javec.
For adoption.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Kemp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And 8.5, we have land sale bylaw for Chamberlain Park encroachment bylaw number 4461 for consideration of adoption. Councillor Parslow, second. Councillor Earl. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 8.6, we have report number 2192 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding our 2020 Operating Reserve Fund Establishment bylaw number 4463 2020. Councillor Parslow.
I move that report 20-192 from the CFO re 2020 Operating Reserve Fund Establishment Bylaw 4463 2020 be received. Further, that 2020 Operating Reserve Fund Establishment Bylaw number 4463 2020 be given first three readings.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Earl, discussion. Flavia, Blair, could you give an update on just this for council for the following?
This was an opportunity we were given by the province due to COVID. This was a one-time, we could exercise this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Flavia, it was 2020 due to COVID. It give us the right, in case of the need for revenue, to borrow from ourselves versus going outside. We have moved forward with this to ensure the sustainability of the city, and if the need arises to access these funds, we will have completed it in the year of 2020. I guess best case scenarios, we wouldn't have to access this, but one never knows, particularly with what the future is going to hold. We've seen what 2020 has brought us with COVID. I'm not sure that we aren't going to see some very difficult realities moving into 2021 and beyond. So, Flavia, anything further?
No.
Good. Thank you. So it's there if we need it, and it was given by the province and the legislation to allow us to do it, and we put it in place in the event we need to do it, but we don't plan on doing anything at this point.
I think the key message would be, if we didn't act on the ability that was given to us by the provincial government now, and next year all of a sudden we realized we needed some of those funds, we wouldn't be in the position we are today where we could borrow from ourselves and set this fund up. Okay. So very much a cautionary move and proactive.
Thank you. Any discussion, comments, questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation 2.
Just a procedural
Sure.
thing here. Can we, I don't mind showing my ignorance about some things or forgetfulness. Can we do the adoption and the first 3 readings at the same meeting? Yes, we can?
Yes, for when it's related to financial topics under the situation of COVID, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Move that the 2020 Operating Reserve Fund Establishment Bylaw number 4463/2020 be adopted.
Thank you. So I have a seconder? Councillor Dvekoff? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Finally, that further to the authority provided within 2020 Operating Reserve Fund Establishment Bylaw number 4463/2020 that Council authorize the interfund borrowing payment method as presented within report number 20-192 in the amount of $1,750,000.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dvekoff? Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 8.7, we have report number 20188 from the Chief Administrative Officer regarding our water rate and regulation amendment bylaw 4462.
Your Worship, if I could provide a quick update on this. This is what we had mentioned just previously, about 3 reports ago. This is given the city the ability to shut off water as much as we would not like to have to be in that position. We have a number of accounts in the city that are thousands of dollars in money owed to the city. And it makes very little sense that for those taxpayers and utility users that pay their fees on a regular basis, that these who have been in some cases years not paying have the ability to continue to use the water of the city while others fund it for them.
Thank you. Councillor Parzel.
I move that report 20-188 from the CAO be received. Further, that water rates and regulations amendment bylaw number 4462/2020 be given first 3 readings. Further, that staff be directed to create a billing and collection policy.
Thank you. Councillor Kemp, second. Discussion? Councillor Earl?
Just a question, tangentially related to this, I guess. So when people don't pay their utility bills at the end of the year, that's tacked onto their property tax, and if that remains unpaid for a number of years, we will eventually take the house and auction it off to recoup our costs. Is what kind of is there a minimal payment people can make to fend off that step so that they can remain in arrears and continue to run up a bill without us being able to step in and take action to recoup some of those monies?
Prior to adoption of this bylaw, we will bring back a policy that will deal with that exact issue. We thought that both would go hand in hand. So if somebody owed, for the sake of it, $2,000 on their water bill, they hadn't paid, we give them notice, we were going to shut it off. They came into the city and said, hey, look, I can give you $1,000 and can I do $100 a month? That's the type of policy. I think if people are willing to make the effort, there's a great number that we haven't had contact with or don't seem to be favorable to that today, but possibly with the new policy being brought in and the new bylaw being adopted, that will help.
Thank you. Further discussion? The one thing to me is there's 2 components to utility and the water and the billing and collection policy, and to me there's time in terms of how long people go without paying, and then it flips on to whatever means we have today to collect it. And then also the dollar value of, so if somebody's a big user, they could rack up a significant amount of costs of not paying it within a very short period of time, or somebody else might go for 2 years and never get. So I think there's that balance in there as well, right? To say, look, we're not gonna let you get to $5,000 in a outstanding account, but at some point over a year or 2 years, we set that in the policy, and I think that's, to me, reasonable for us to monitor and have in that policy of where we're going to take action. Right, Councillor Dvekoff?
So will this apply to trailers?
Yes, it will.
Mobile homes?
Yeah, they are the main concern.
Mobile homes, I'm thinking of the trailer park or the mobile home park.
So
Councillor Earl?
The one issue with the one mobile home park that I'm aware of in this is that we don't control the water shutoff. And correct me if I'm mistaken, we don't have the water shut off to individual mobile homes. It's the park itself, correct?
No, the
No.
problem is we do have shutoffs to each individual mobile home. So if they don't pay their water bill or pay their taxes, they're still probably paying their pad rental. So the owner of the mobile home park is made whole. It's the city that's losing, whether it be on taxation or water. It would be much preferable if we had one shutoff for a mobile home park and the mobile home operator was responsible for the people on the pads that were renting it. We can't get there yet. We're investigating that right now, but I will point out as well, so for people, in case, this does not shut anybody off after 30 days of not paying their bill. We bill on every second month, so you have 60 days of usage. You have 30 days to pay the bill before there's a 10% penalty, and then we would give notice. So you could be in the 100-day range without paying your bill before this would come in.
Good. Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Yeah, no, and I just echo the sentiment there that's made about timelines and amounts. I know, obviously, we want to give people, be flexible enough to give people the opportunity to bring the account current, but not so flexible that we allow them to get themselves in a situation where they're never going to be able to get out from under it. That doesn't feel what and for anybody watching, the reason we all seem to be so keenly interested in the mobile home issue is because, as an earlier report stated, it's about $200,000 in arrears thus far as a total, which is a small amount of.
I would like just to add, if I can, from this 200,000, about 85% is utility related, not paid.
Yeah. Thank you. So we don't have a motion at this point?
Yes, I do.
Did we? Did we? Thank you. So any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Can I ask a
Yeah,
question?
go ahead.
Just one well-known former local politician used to say, I have a curious question. Why did you present this and not the General Development Services Manager? Is he nervous about this particular issue or what?
No, he isn't. This is something I have spearheaded and had deep concerns about for a long time. I took it, and I know he has got his hands full dealing with numerous things, so I thought I could contribute.
Just keeping my tabs on the
All right.
internal dynamics.
Thank you. So Mayor's business. I want to start out with one topic, and I read a note on the weekend, and it's COVID-19 related, and it really is about Northeast BC now is leading the northern part of the province in terms of the number of confirmed cases, which is really concerning when I saw that. And when you see the second wave, and obviously public safety and public health is such an important issue, I think, to all of us. But also, and equally to me, is if we don't start to see a decline in it, does the public health order start to escalate where it starts to impact our business community once again, and we just can't have that happen. And so I just want to raise the topic to our community and the region that we need to be diligent about this. Hand washing, social distancing. You can't do that, wear a mask, and it really is so important. So for so many reasons, and as I say, public health most importantly, but also for the economy of our small business community and our community. We just cannot see those businesses shut down once again. They won't survive, and it's a huge deal. Councillor Earl and Councillor Jacka.
Yeah, Your Worship, I agree. I was speaking with some restaurateurs just last week who obviously, as a result of the increasing incidents of COVID-19 across the province, have had to start shutting down at 10. They've had their hours limited. For a lot of them, that's thousands of dollars a month in revenue that they're out. And then, once again, if you look at what's currently occurring in Ontario and Quebec around the escalating social restrictions being put in place to help get the transmission under control, once again, it is a very real possibility. So I thank you for bringing it up and echo your sentiment.
Thank you. Councillor Jacka.
So it seems that I heard there was over 100 cases in Northeast BC. Is that Was that confirmed or?
Yeah, I think the number I saw, Paul, was about 140 confirmed cases in Northeast BC, and I think the West Coast was like 74 in the northwest part of Northern Health and in the interior, and I forget, I think they were around 100 or something. So Northeast BC right now in Northern British Columbia is leading that number of confirmed cases in the north, and it's, like I said, it's just a real worry to me when you start to see that, where complacency, I guess, a little bit, and just people, we need to be diligent about some of those personal habits that we employ to help avert a major outbreak. Councillor Earl?
So a couple more thoughts on this while we're on the topic. I know at a previous council meeting, we inquired about, given our proximity to the Alberta border and how vital it is to our local economy, people are obviously going to travel back and forth as they need to. And I knew one of the questions we were going to ask, or we asked you to pass on to Northern Health, or someone to pass on to Northern Health as we were having that conversation, is what kind of contact we're in with the health authority in Alberta to make sure we're effectively tracking and tracing. I do also have some concerns I'm hearing from people throughout the city who now that COVID cases have become, they're here. People who are having to get tested, having to self-isolate, having to quarantine. There does seem to be a little bit of inconsistency with respect to the experiences they're having. I know I had a tickle in my chest a couple weeks ago, so I stayed at home, went out, got tested. It was about a 4-day turnaround time. Test came back negative, so it was all good. Glad to have that be the case. But I know some other people who've been contact traced who were advised they're stuck at home for 2 weeks self-quarantining and don't have the option of getting tested until symptoms emerge, which, you know, for a single parent, for somebody whose job doesn't include paid sick leave, that is going to be difficult to monitor and police and enforce, because if you put someone in a situation where they have to choose between putting food on the table for their kids or maybe having been exposed, you know, it's so I would like to see, I guess we'd all like to see more resources behind tracking and tracing, but when I hear stuff like that, it worries me that we aren't going to have the capacity to contain this if it does get worse.
Well, and I guess that's the point of my message. We know it's confirmed cases are in Northeast BC, and our personal practices are what can help all of us keep it from a major outbreak, and that's ensuring we social distance, ensure we hand wash, ensure we wear a mask where we can. So, and we'll continue to monitor, and we'll continue to be outreach to Northern Health and to the public health boarders as it relates to that. So just like I say, it was just a concern over the weekend. I attended the 7th annual Resource Breakfast Series with the Minister of Energy about 2 weeks ago, and it was just opportunity to participate in this breakfast series that goes on annually as part of the UBCM with the Minister of Forest, Minister of Energy, and Minister of Mining, and usually have a moderator and somebody from local community, and so it was a very good opportunity. I think we had about 200 people follow the event online, and gave us an opportunity to talk about Dawson Creek and the energy sector in our region. I was asked by the Mayor of Taylor, who are experiencing some issues with feral cats and cats in the community, to participate in a committee meeting with them last week and just give an update on our experience with the cat bylaw that we implemented, and with the SPCA and the spay and neuter program that was the grant money. We got $75,000 from PetSmart to be able to administer that spay and neuter program, and just talked about the implications of that cat bylaw that the city imposed, and they were very appreciative of the fact that Wendy Davies and I gave them some information on our experience with it. I had an update from the folks from the BC Oil and Gas Commission last week, and just talked about their community stakeholder relations work that they're doing, and just kind of a catch-up opportunity, and we'll do that on a quarterly basis with them. I toured the Wild Lake Compressor Station and the Coastal GasLink project out at Groundbirch. last week with TC Energy and some of the other folks from the contractors from Solaris Murphy. Sean Solaris was there, as well as the Aecon folks on the Wild Lake compressor station. It was really good to see it firsthand, where you see that pipeline project, a major 750 kilometer pipeline project stretching from Groundbirch to Kitimat to feed LNG Canada, and to see the pipe in the ground and to see the technology they utilize in pipe that's 4 feet in diameter and probably almost a ½ inch thick. I think in cases it was crazy how significant a project. And so I really appreciated the invitation and to spend the afternoon touring it and seeing it firsthand. And it was kind of ironic on last Thursday, I think it was, October 1st, was the announcement of LNG Canada moving ahead with their final investment decision in 2018. And Mayor Ackerman and I had the opportunity to be there the day that announcement was made by the Prime Minister and the proponents. It's really good to see the construction underway. Dale Campbell took me for a tour of Milesville Park and really went through the overview of the park, and was really worthwhile. I really appreciate Dale's efforts in give me some time down there to tour it. And just to refresh it, see it firsthand. Sometimes you take some of that stuff for granted when it's in your community and you don't spend the time to kind of go right through it and do a complete walk around. And so I really appreciated it. Last week I got an invitation from the Rotary Club, and they're starting to meet now again every second week in the Noon Club. And so they had a meeting at the Calvin Crook Center, and I gave a bit of an update or overview of the city and the work of council and what we've been up to here and what we're moving forward with. And so I spent about a half an hour giving the Rotary Club an update on the council and budget and operations and capital and all the directions, strategic plan and objectives. So it was good to be in person to have that opportunity again. Blair and I had a meeting with the Rotary presidents last week. We wanted to continue to push. Council directed this redevelopment of the Rotary Lake. So we wanted to give the Rotary presidents a little bit of an update on kind of that review of the White Court facility. We're going up to Fort St. John, I think, in a week or two to tour their facility, meet with the mayor and CAO up there, and begin that preliminary work of the redevelopment. And the Rotary clubs were really appreciative of the fact, and to us, we talked about that Rotary Lake was Rotary Lake. It's 60 years of history in the community with the Rotary Club and that partnership. So just to talk about the potential of the planning piece of the Rotary Lake, Rotary Park redevelopment. And it was very good. Like I think there was 4 or 5 of them online with us, Joe and Keith Brown and John Curriota, and can't remember who else was on. But anyway, it was good to have a good discussion with the Rotarians. We're doing the work with the International Access Organization. They reached out to us to do a opportunity of doing an online where there have people who are international professionals that are immigrating or are in Canada looking to be connected with business or industry, and it makes that connection. And so we've been doing some work on that, and we're going to put an event together in a couple of weeks where we've reached out to 4 or 5 or 6 industry businesses that have indicated their willingness, wanting to participate in that event. And these people connect these professionals with the potential employers and accountants and professionals and whatever. And so it's an opportunity just to try to facilitate that connection with community and business with international trained professionals looking to immigrate to Canada. And we always talk about how difficult it is to attract people, especially professionals, into our community in the region. So we took this on to try to see if we can find a way to help some of our local businesses. Councillor Parslow?
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
So many professions have their own licensing, colleges that really control entry into that. How are those obstacles going to be overcome?
Yeah.
I talk to a lot of the people from South Asia who are here at the college, amazed at their qualifications within India. And then I teach, well, how are they going to navigate through the College of Teachers, the College of Medical Practitioners? it's a problem.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not sure, but it's Organization Access, I think is the name of it, and so I think they do some of that stuff to ensure that these people, when they do come, are qualified for, to immigrate to Canada, and then the qualification of licensing and all that stuff, I'm assuming would be, this is just the opportunity that they're making that first link to prospective employers. We sent out a list of letters to about 30 or 40 businesses and industry in the region, and we got back confirmed about 6 or 8 of them that are willing to participate, and so we just prepare and provide the opportunity to connect to our community and then the businesses, and then they go into these chat rooms, and so then the prospective employer meets with the prospective employee. So we had a meeting on Thursday night with the organized, just carrying on with that childcare work, and so we had an opportunity to connect with about 6 or 8 of the childcare providers in the community. And what all I'm trying to do at this point is get some information and gathering information about what are the issues, what's capacity, what's the components that they struggle with in terms of providing childcare, what's the need. It was very worthwhile. We spent about an hour on the phone with the various providers in the community, and so I'm just continuing to do the work on it. And I think the biggest piece that we got to get done initially is to get some funding to be able to do a study and do that gap analysis in the community to understand what's available, what isn't available, what are the needs, who's doing what are the things that we need to understand to move it forward. I got a call on Thursday afternoon late from the ministry, and I reached out to them, and they finally called me back. And because of the election, it's a little clunky, but there were some grant funding opportunities, and they're willing to help us get on track once the election's done and they can get really back to work and get going. So I'm going to continue to do the work on this, and I'll keep council up to date on what we're doing and how we're doing it. Our delegation requests, we had the Nalkin Friendship Center we've addressed, and 923 Hillbilly Haven. The Kiwanis Performing Arts Center and the Kiwanis Child Care Center had raised a couple of issues. And so I guess to administration, the street lighting, Kevin or Blair?
I think, Your Worship, what we could do is look at that. I mean, if you would like us to, based on what council's direction is here today, to see if there's a requirement for additional street lighting. There were 2 requests. One was on the building,
Yeah.
I think, for the corner, the hidden alcove type. We could look at that if council so wished, and see what the costs associated with meeting the requests of the delegation were.
I was down there, and I think there's about 3 or 4 street lights at that corner of 10th and 104th, 105th.
Yeah.
And then at the next block over on 11.
Yeah, through your worship, the intersection of 10th and 104 has 4 lights, one on each corner. On 104th itself, heading westerly, there's lights on each side of the street. And obviously they're installed in a manner that was designed in its day, and I can't remember how old those lights are. I don't believe they are that old. I believe we put those in within the last 5-7 years when we did some paving down there. I'd have to double check, but they were certainly put into a standard that would be adequate. So anything that we do here would be over and above.
Okay. So maybe if council wants, maybe if you want to give direction to administration for that. Councillor Parslow?
Yes, just the presentation, I obviously, what resonated with me was the lighting attached to the building. I could see that as being quite necessary and might be beneficial, but I was a little confused about the internal security, the third, and what is the responsibility of the society and the responsibility of the city. Like, I know we are responsible for the maintenance of the external parts of the building. I wasn't sure what our lease agreement is with the society concerning what would be an internal fixtures. Any comments about that?
I believe, and I would look to Ross, but I believe the internal workings, say the internal where the fenced area for the play area and all that would fall with the leasee, not the lessor, but we could follow through on that. I couldn't imagine that the city would be responsible for within the gated portion, but what they've highlighted is obviously some challenges with some people wherever they're from, you know, doing some things. It's hard to believe people act that way at a daycare facility, let alone anywhere else, but at a daycare facility. So.
Well, but wasn't their last point to do with the main entrance to the building? That's
Security system to monitor for those that are on a,
so that. Yeah, that's right.
Right.
yeah,
And I was just wondering who's.
yeah.
I without knowing the details of the lease, but my general understanding with that arrangement is the general maintenance of the building is ours. We own it. I could see the lighting for the alley as possibly being part of our responsibility to consider, but I was unsure about the internal security monitors. They wanted some monitored system so that they could see if somebody was in a certain area.
Yeah.
So I thought that was, and there's the daycare would be the play area that would be covered by the lighting. So, but I would like to report back.
Earl?
Sure, thank you, through your worship. In most of our leases, the city is responsible for a basic security system. I'm not entirely sure what's in that building at present. I'm not sure if there's cameras. In terms of lighting, we're responsible for the structure, the capital improvements, those sorts of things. The addition of a light would be above and beyond what the terms of that lease would suggest.
So I think the basis is we want to direct administration then to bring back a report on the providing options that would provide the security for that safety of that building and that back alley access. Move Councillor Parslow, second Councillor Kemp. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 9.3, I'm requesting reconsideration motion on an item that we dealt with at our last meeting in regards to the South Peace Milesville Park Society regarding that request for reimbursement of engineering costs. And the reason the charter gives me the ability to do this as the mayor, even though I voted against it. So the reason is, and why I believe it's important is, the Milesville Park Society is a group of volunteers who have really saved that Sudan Hall by the initiative they took on to try to get it back onto operation. And in my view, had they not done that, we probably would have been trying to find $200,000 or $300,000 to demolish the building at some point, because we wouldn't have taken on what we believe to be the anticipated cost to recover it in. And the engineering and some of the things that they needed to do on our building, a city-owned building, was as a result of the direction that we gave to them under the building code by our building inspector for the permit and the engineering in order to proceed with the renovations that they did to that building in order to save it. And so from my perspective, I felt that the request of the $5,292 for the engineering costs that we directed them to do on our building was a reasonable request for them to make of us. And I do feel that the initiative that they took on by recovering and saving the building now back into operation is a reasonable request. And so I'm proposing the following motion, that the South Peace Milesville Park Society be reimbursed $5,292 for the engineering costs related to the Sudan Hall as specified in the attached letter, which was previously received for discussion at the September 14th, 2020 regular meeting of council. So I'm proposing that by way of a motion.
I'll second it.
Second, Councillor Parslow. Discussion.
Go
ahead.
Yeah, I was a little confused by the decision of council based upon other city-owned facilities that are operated by various societies. Two that come to mind It came to mind somewhat like 4 o'clock this morning, for some reason, which I made a note of and then got back to sleep. The art gallery is operated by the South Peace Arts Council, but the city expended a lot of money in dealing with foundation issues and recladding the building, roofing, and I'm assuming there was some engineering costs associated with the foundations there. And why did the city do it? Because the city owns the facility. The society runs it. The museum. I think there's been 2 projects at the museum since I've been on council. The city owns the building. The Historical Society operates it and subleases portions of it to Tourism Dawson Creek. And I imagine because there were major issues with lead paint that there was some studies done there as to the abatement and procedures. All of that was funded. So here we have Sudan Hall, which is owned by the city of Dawson Creek, and we have a different standard. And I always struggle with why we have different standards for, not the city, sorry, about the concept of having different standards for different organizations. I don't mean to infer that we do that. We don't. We generally try to deal with people, organizations in an equitable manner. But in this instance, I think we've adopted a different standard. And I believe as it's city-owned and operated on our behalf by a society where I'm striking a parallel situation there between the South Peace Arts Society and the Historical Society. And by inference, you could extend that to other groups that we know of as well. They're the 2 groups I have experience of.
Thank you. Councillor Javetkov, then Councillor Earl.
So I don't consider this a standard. I think we deal with each individual issue as they come up. And to me, obviously, I was involved with the projects on the museum and art gallery. And you know, those are iconic buildings, and I think we put a lot of priority on maintaining them and keeping them in existence for the benefit of tourists and for the benefit of the city. I don't think we classified Sudan Hall as having similar values as an iconic building, so I don't think these are standards. I think I guess you could spin it that way, but I think we deal with each individual project on its own merits. And I still oppose paying the $5,000, and the basis is that the engineering report to me goes hand in glove with the renovations. So, you know, it should have been considered in that price, and you know, I don't think that it's our responsibility to pick up extra costs in this kind of a situation.
Thank you. Councillor Earl.
So, my initial vote was to deny the $5,290 reimbursement. That vote wasn't in any way intended to be a commentary on the value of the service provided or the dedication of the volunteers down at MOPS. It was more a response to the fact that I don't particularly like surprises of that sort, $5,200, and the fact that many organizations in the city, not MOPS, have a habit of asking for forgiveness, not permission, when it comes to doing work. Having said that, that isn't unique to them. And as Councilman Javetkov said, we do deal with every request individually, but we should do so in an even-handed fashion. And I do, to Councilor Parslo's point, feel as though maybe MOPS got, at least in my case anyway, it was a matter of just taken off guard by the surprise, not happy with it, knowing full well that There's other instances where we have let stuff slide for the work they've done and the money they've saved us. $52 is not going to make or break us, so I'm willing to bend on this one, bearing in mind that there is a larger issue here that needs to be addressed, which is people take liberties with city property, with projects as they presume. I mean, one ongoing right now, I guess, is the work Rotary is doing on behalf of the city on the walking trail. And if those costs are outside of what was proposed, are we going to be able to say no if they come back with more money, or if they look for a break on some costs of some sort? Those are the kind of things that pull me in another direction. Is they're doing good work, but we also need to be able to plan our expenditures appropriately. And in order to do that, we need everybody to come to the table with a clear-eyed vision of what the costs of these projects are when they get in. So I'll change my mind, and I'll vote in favor of the $1,592, bearing in mind that I still think this is an issue that we as a city need to be more diligent on addressing before we get 4 or 5 month old invoices for $5,000 coming across our desk with no notice that we should have expected them.
Thank you. Further discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you, Councillor Javetkov. Support. So we're going to take a 6-minute recess, and then we'll be back into it. Ourselves back to order, and our next item on the agenda is our CAO update. Blair?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a number of things I wanted to bring to Council's attention. BC Transit would be the first. We have had a number of calls over the last 2 weeks, I'll say, regarding BC Transit passing up school children at bus stops. And as a result, parents have called wondering what was happening. I think it's fair to say Council is well aware. They have made the decision to alter the BC Transit budget by 50% to reduce it. During those discussions, it was a topic for the schedule to be maintained so that in the mornings it allowed the school children to be able to access the buses mid-afternoon to get them. But what's happened is BC Transit has made a decision that they are only going to run their buses at not full capacity, but about 2/3. As a result, there are times when these buses get to the bus stop and are at that capacity, so they do not or are unable to pick up additional students. There is some history to this. The students didn't used to ride the BC Transit system. They used to go onto the school buses from each of the schools. So they would go to the school. As the school bus brought rural students in-town students would get on the school bus and be shuttled down to either the middle school or Central, I will use, or South Peace. That has since changed, and as a result, parents and the children have shifted to BC Transit. We have been in contact. We are meeting, I believe, as early as Wednesday of this week, if it isn't tomorrow, with the school district to see if we can't find solutions to this problem, particularly with the winter months coming. We have also been in touch with BC Transit to see if they will reconsider their, I believe it's about a 2/3 capacity is what they will run their buses. It's interesting, you can fill an airplane to capacity, but you can't get on a bus where you have mandatory masks. So we're working with them. We're going to work with the school board to see if we can come up with some solutions to this. But again, it is something I want to bring to council's attention. And if there's any questions, I would answer it before moving on to the next. No? Oh.
In your meeting with the school board, you might want to explore whether they have considered adopting the practices that I believe, I know the private schools locally do it, of charging an amount per month for riding. Okay. So in other words, if you're not eligible under the School Act for service, it's an optional thing. So I don't know if the school board's ever considered that, and if it's legally possible, but something that should be at school.
All right, thank you. All right, now we'll move on. The next one on my list was Chamberlain Park. We've had some discussion about this issue earlier today. This is where we had encroachments. Properties had encroachments into the park. This goes back about 3 years now. We began a process of dealing with this where individual properties were offered the ability to purchase a set amount of footage behind their property to accommodate these encroachments. We have 10 people did take the city up on that. 5 chose to remove the encroachments. There are 15 at various stages of removal as well. Whether it be fences, whether it be whatever they put there, tree houses, for example. We do have one unique situation, which is on the corner of 108, the first property there. There is no fence or anything, but there has been trees planted, which would lead you to believe, if you were walking in the park, that it is somebody's yard. So we have talked, this owner is well aware of that. They believe they're new owners. They didn't plant these trees. So at this point, we haven't determined whether we want to go into a park and cut trees down, but it certainly will delineate the lines of a yard. So we are going to take that as we move forward. There is a couple of trees, one dead for sure that can come out, but I would look for any discussion topics from council or your wishes. If you would like us to take the trees down in the park, we can do so. It would open it up to be more accessible as the others are, but it's a unique situation. A fence is quite straightforward, where trees are somewhat different. So,
Yeah, to me, the trees are the trees and part of the park, and it can't restrict access into that park area. If somebody chose to go and use it, that's park property, that's public property. And so to me, the access has to be available to everybody who chooses to use the park, right?
Okay.
That's just my... Councillor Parsons?
So you're saying the trees, though, are a physical barrier?
You can go between them, but there's probably, I'm going to say 10 or 12 trees. I didn't do the full count. I walked over there myself to get a view because it was part of what we're doing. It delineates the yard, for example. I mean, it would be, if you were to walk there, I would suggest that 99% of anyone that walked there would not think that was parkland. That's what I would suggest. That's my view of it. So,
Then I would suggest some selective culling.
we may be able to thin them. We may be able to work with the individual who's there to see, you know, at the end of the day, it's the city's park without question. But again, the reason this discussion is here today is the city going and cutting trees, live trees down in a park, I think could create some challenge with some people.
How big are they?
Oh gosh, they're probably 15 feet, I would say.
Maybe we could move them. I think there is a tree spade around, if you could get it in there.
Maybe an option. But they're pretty substantial and pretty, again, I'm not an arborist, so we would have to check that.
To me, I would think if we got a complaint from people saying, look, this property is park property and it's not accessible, then we would, or if we said we're going to build a pathway through there, then, but it's public property. It's anybody has access to it. So, yeah. Councillor Earl?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's accessible, it is within kind of the letter of the law. I get it's not ideal as a piece of property that's kind of being reclaimed as parkland. It gives a certain impression based on the infrastructure that's been there, and if the trees are 50, it's been there for a while. As long as it's accessible, it is what it is. I'm not of the opinion that we need to spend taxpayer resources further. We fulfilled our obligation as municipal government. As long as there's nothing barring the public from accessing that area, it will look a certain way, but I think might have to live with it, or at least I'm willing to live with that. I think we've spent a lot of time on this project at a tremendous cost to the city and our staff hours, and unless there is an issue where it's not in compliance with the law, I'm happy to leave it be.
Your worship, then what we can do is once we've completed the Chamberlain process and all of that, should we receive concerns, we'll bring those back to council and let you know.
Sure.
The next update I had was the
I have another question about Chamberlain.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. I don't want to get into specific details here, but there was one rather unique situation, and I'm curious how that's been resolved. Was it resolved by them buying land where the property line went through a deck?
We have dealt with that. The owners of that home removed the stairs. It was the stairs that were encroaching. The park is within the setback. It is too close to the actual property line, but on their property they are applying for a variance, as we see here on occasion. Another quick update, the 97th Avenue Capital Project, just off of 15th. That has, I see they've just completed. They had to go back in the ground to do a couple of things. Completed. We will be, instead of just patching the side where they worked, we are going to do a full overlay of 97th. I want to update council on that. Anybody that's driven that area will see that it is much needed as well. You will note 15th Street, both north and south, have been completed and paved now. There's still some cleanup work to do on that. And Kevin, unless you have anything to add, I think it looks very good. It's a nice addition to our capital works here in the city.
Just one note, and I chatted with Councillor Javetkov before the meeting, and this will be a question probably by some, is we stopped 15th Street short, basically right close to 97th Avenue this year, because we were looking at working with the Ministry of Transportation and CN on the southern portions of that strip to see if they wanted to do any redesigns or anything needed to be done, and we were unable to get that completed. So just for the public's information, we will be completing the rest of 15th down to Alaska from where we left off this year. We'll do that next year, so that'll completely finish that off.
All right. Thank you.
97th, go 15th to 13th will be paved?
Yes.
Okay.
And the last one I had, we have the by-election coming up. It is October 17th is the date of the general day for the by-election, but we do have early voting available on October 7th and October 14th. The advance polls will be open at the Kin Arena from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. On both those days. Again, that's October 7th and October 14th. Regular voting day, October 17th, is again the Kin Arena, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We have had a number of mail-in ballot requests, and we have dealt with that through administration. Are they still able to request that, Brenda?
Yeah, through your worship, they are able to request mail ballot votes until, actually until the Friday before the election. Of course, we won't mail out the package at that point. They could have someone else come and pick up the package. And people can return the mail ballot vote in a variety of ways. They can drop it off at the voting place as long as we get it before 8 o'clock on the voting day.
All right.
Then it can be accepted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Those are the 4 items I want to just give an update to council on
Good.
today, Your Worship.
Thank you, Blair. Anything further? So the diary? No.
Nothing new to report.
Consent calendar, we've got a couple items. Motion to report number 2175, items to be released. Councillor Kemp, Councillor Parslow. All in favor? Opposed, carried. And letter from the Alliance of Beverage Licensees.
Excuse me, through
Oh, sorry,
just
Brendan.
the one motion to receive.
Okay, thank you. Strategic priorities?
Nothing new?
Good. So a motion to recess to close, please. Councillor Kemp, Councillor Parslow, all in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you.